I started collecting music when I was 6 years old. It was just something I always was into. My mom would send me cassette tapes to Columbia, and it was just something that I had a passion for. At the age of 10, I had an upstairs neighbor in New Jersey who was in college and was more of a weekend DJ. He would always set up 2 turntables and a mixer, and I happened to go upstairs one afternoon on a Saturday. I remember that day like it was yesterday. And I just fell in love with the art of being able to mix from one track to the other. And for the next year, it was me begging my mother to please buy me 2 turntables and a mixer. Please buy me 2 turntables and a mixer. I think finally, just to shut me up, when I graduated from grammar school, she got me 2 Scott turntables and a Gemini mixer. By no means are these the best turntables or mixers. You know, the Scott turntables are the ones that if you push the plate back too fast, the needle had to reset itself. So, you know, I think actually learning on equipment like that gave me an upper hand, because then when I got to the real equipment, to like the Technique 1200s, it was just so much easier to use. But it was just something that I really loved. I had a passion for it from the time I was 11, and then I just became known in Union City, New Jersey, and you know, through all my friends as like the DJ. So I would do all the class events, car washes, weddings. Anything anybody would pay me any money for, you know, $200 for. And the funny thing is, I didn't have great equipment, so I would take those $200 that they would pay me, and I would pay my friend $50 to lend me his turntables and mixer, and you know, my other friend $50 to like lend me his speakers, and then I would pay somebody $50 for like to be able to take the a van and take everything there. So by the time it was over, I didn't make any money, but I didn't care because I really, really loved to play music. Back in the early days, I mean, stuff like, you know, the early, Donna Summer stuff, Diana Ross, even the Village People, believe it or not, you know, it was things that I really loved. But I think that as far as the DJing part of it, it was just a challenge for me at that time of the blending and going back and forth. And back then I was doing scratching, I was doing, you know, I just had a real love for the art of being able to mix music together. And I think that, you know, somewhere in the back of my mind, it was like being the man at the party, if you will, you know, being the guy. And I think, you know, that definitely was something, but I definitely think that for me, it was the challenge of being able to mix. And, you know, at one point, we set up 4 turntables and a mixer, and we used to have competitions after school to see who can hold 4 records on beat the longest. And, you know, it was just, that was the thing. It was just the love of mixing records together. It was just something that I always had. I don't know that it was a track as much as it was the challenge of being able to do that. And it just became my passion. I didn't even play sports. You know, I would come home from school and this is what I would do until my mom got home from work. And then she's like, turn it down. And, you know, I would be driving my mother nuts. And, you know, it was just something I always loved. You know, music was just something I always loved. As I was growing up, like I said, I did a lot of school gigs. By that I mean, it's basically a school dance. So, you know, you would go into your high school and they would give you $200 again, and you would have to bring in the sound system, I mean, everything. So, you know, I was a mobile DJ at first. I would have to bring all the speakers, amplifiers. It wasn't just showing up like I do now and, you know, play my music. You actually had to set everything up and make it sound good. So for me, that was a good thing to learn, because I know how to set up equipment backwards and forwards. I can go into a club, if there's a problem, I know what I need to do. But also the car wash is something that we used to do. And basically what it would be you would set up your DJ gear in the street, and it would be like a fundraiser car wash that you would do. And we would do this about 2 times a year, where you have you set up the equipment outside, and people come and, you know, girls would wash your cars, and you know, in little skimpy outfits, and I'd be rocking it out with my music. You know, it was definitely a fun thing. I think that, you know, back then, you know, I played from go-go bars to, there were no gigs I wouldn't do, even weddings. And, you know, having to play the funky chicken at a wedding wasn't the most fulfilling gig, but I didn't care because I just loved to be in front of a crowd and playing music.
In the beginning there was Jack, and Jack had a groove, You know I like to push, and push. You know I want to
Back then, there weren't many radio shows in America. You know, there was no DJ culture. If as far as listening to new music, new dance music, there was like a couple of mix shows that maybe on a Friday night or a Saturday night for a couple hours I would hear music through there. Going to the record store was a big, that was a big Saturday or Sunday event where you spend the whole day in the record store going through records and seeing what was going on. And back then, it wasn't house music. It was a little bit of hip hop, a little bit of, even reggae. Disco was a big thing. High energy disco was a big thing that, that Italian disco that we were really into. And house became something that little by little I gravitated to. And I think the one track that, really made me say, I want to play house music was, Todd Terry, everything that Todd Terry was doing back in the day, A Day in the Life. Party People, all those tracks really was like, what is going on? What is this sound? Marshall Jefferson, Move Your Body. Records like that were like, what is this? It's like, it was dance, but but it wasn't disco. And that's how I discovered house. And I think the Jungle Brothers, Girl, I'll House You, was kind of the one that blew it open for me and said, you know what? I don't want to play hip hop anymore. I want to play house music. I want to do this. This is what I want to do. At the age of 18, my mom said, okay, this DJing thing is all well and dandy, but either you're going to college or you're going to get a trade and do something, whether it's an electrician, a plumber, because I told her I didn't want to go to school. College was not something I was looking forward to. So, for me, it was something that I needed to pursue, and I told her I wanted to become a music engineer. And I started making music, but again, in America, dance music was not big. It was not, it was not anything. So I started making music. I did a couple of records for Strictly Rhythm, and I happened to do I Like to Move It, which then became a huge phenomenon.
I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. You like to move it.
And it wasn't until that record blew up in England that I went to the UK and saw what was going on. That's when I got to see the explosion of the revolution, and to go and get to Heathrow and get on the car and they have a dance station playing dance music all day long. I'm like, what? I got to my hotel, MTV's playing dance videos all day. I'm like, I have just walked into heaven, because in America there wasn't even a radio station playing dance music. I went to see David Morales at Ministry of Sound, and there was 2,000 people looking at the DJ. I never saw that before. In America, there was no people looking at DJ. People go to the dance club, and the DJ was like the bartender. The DJ was like a worker. It wasn't like people didn't go there to see a DJ. They went to dance. Here I am at Ministry of Sound, looking at these people in awe of David Morales, and every record he played, everybody's like, way! I'm like, I have just gone to Wonderland. Like, to me, that was like, okay, like, what is this? Is like so backwards. America was all hip hop. Here I go to a country, it's all dance music. So for me, it was like, I think I can make this, I could turn this into a business. I think I can become, I've already been DJing since I was 11, so DJing is no problem. And people actually appreciate the music that I'm making.
I'm gonna bring it up to date if you guys are ready. So London, if you're ready, make some noise.
So that's when, and that was back in 1992 was the first time I went to the UK. And that's, after that, I remember calling my mom. I was so excited. I called all my friends. I'm like, you guys do not believe what is going on right now in the UK. Like I may not ever come home. And at first I was like, I think I'm gonna buy a house in London. I think, because it was like, wow, like they appreciate it. And to me it was funny to hear the British people saying, mate, we don't have anything over here. Complaining about, they don't have clubs and and it's like, what are you kidding me? You guys, I just come from like the US where we have nothing. It's like nothing, and it was just amazing to me, like such a big difference. So after that, it was like, okay, now I'm gonna dedicate myself to DJing again. But at that level, like seeing what was going on in Ministry of Sound was one of the things that I want to be a resident here, and then I just started making records and going back, kept going back to England. It was like, I'm gonna dominate this industry. It's like, this is what I want to do, and that's when I dedicated my life completely to house music and to becoming a DJ and becoming a mogul in the dance music industry, because I just felt like there is a market for this, you know. So it was an amazing time for me. I get goosebumps just thinking about it, but it was a wake up call for me.
I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. You like to move it.
I was making records for Strictly Rhythm. Like I said, I had a big hit record with Real to Real, and that really opened up a lot of doors for me. Not only did I go to the UK, Germany. It just opened all the doors, and this is coming from somebody who'd never been to Europe. The thought of even like the fact that I was traveling, that wasn't supposed to be in my life. I come from a very poor background.
It's not big, but it's what I'm used to, and I work hard enough to kind of do it. So it cost me a little bit of money, but when you're trying to do 2 gigs in one day, it's the only way to travel. So you guys ready to come to Poland? Amsterdam is done, burned. Now we are going down, baby. Let's do it.
My family doesn't have a lot of money, so like I said, I was either going to become an electrician or a plumber, or that wasn't in the cards for me. And when I saw what was available to me if I continued to do records and have success in dance music, I saw what Erick Morillo was doing. I'm like, I can do this. It was just more about, now I want to do this. So I became very active in wanting to be a DJ and be booked and do gigs. And I remember, because of Real to Real, people did want to book me, but it wasn't necessarily the kind of clubs I wanted to play. Because obviously Real to Real went on to become one of the biggest top 10 records in the UK, dance top 10 records in the UK. So a lot of the clubs that wanted to book me were a little bit more commercial, a little bit more mainstream, your Hollywoods and Romfords and your Café de Paris. I remember they had a party going on that was really, and they weren't necessarily the gigs I wanted to do, because, because of Real to Real and the success that I had, I think a lot of people thought that that's what I was doing. But what I dedicated myself then after that, besides continuing to do Real to Real and do an album for Real to Real, I continued doing underground records, and I had records with Smooth Touch and RAW and a bunch of other names. And the gigs I was trying to do were gigs like Ministry of Sound. It took me a long time to get into a place like Ministry of Sound, but that's what I wanted. I wanted to play those underground clubs, still be a little bit be able to play big records, and which I think has been the key to my success, is being able to play underground parties but know when to play records that people know.
Back that up.
Being underground in the UK was really important. A lot of magazines would only put up-and-coming underground DJs on the magazines, and it was like, I didn't understand why a lot of DJs wanted to be so underground. They wanted to only play, and I'm like, no, I want to be the biggest motherfucker in this industry. I want to be the top.
I love it here in Holland. I love it. I love it. Love it.
I don't think I need to ask more questions because your tour manager is waiting for you.
Yeah,
You gotta go to
I'm
Poland.
going to Poland now. Gonna rock that. Mykonos tomorrow. Riccione Monday. And back to Ibiza to do Pasha on Wednesday. I love my life. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. I love you guys. Thank you for the support, for the love. And I'll see you at a club or a festival near you. I love you. Erick Morillo. Good night.
As far as dance music and it growing in America, it took a very, very long time, because even though this scene was so humongous, I mean, it was in the UK and Germany was coming on board, and it felt like everywhere in Europe, dance music was really catching on. And then I would be catching a flight back home, and it was like, it was like going into Oz, it was like the Wizard of Oz, you know what I mean? There was no DJ culture still. There were no radio, there was no TV, there was nothing. And what it took in America for it to cross over into the clubland and the DJ culture to actually start to penetrate were actually the Brits, which is the most hilarious thing, that it took British DJs to bring the DJ culture to America. One of the biggest pairs of DJs that really, really broke through in America, Sasha and Digweed, they had a residency at Twilo, which was absolutely ridiculous. People were coming there. It was so packed. And I think for me, it was the first time that I saw that people went to a club in America for the DJ and stood in front of the DJ in awe. I had never seen that in America. Paul Oakenfold was also a big player in bringing that to the U.S. And and I think little by little, as the UK DJs were having such huge success. Here we are, American DJs in our own home soil, and people don't know who we are. I was a superstar across, in the UK. I would come to my home and I couldn't get a gig. It was amazing. It was an amazing thing, and I think that because of the success of the UK DJs, little by little things started to open up. For people like myself. Danny Tenaglia, who was always a big name, was always very underground, and I think that it helped everybody. It helped people like Danny Tenaglia. I mean, him becoming the king in the UK helped them in the US, and I think that the UK, even to today, is seen as the place that creates the hype for any style of music, and then it grows from there. And I think that for some reason, England, as small as a country as it is, I don't know what it is that they put in the water, but whether it's dance, whether it's rock, whether it's whatever you want to call it, it's all spawned from there. And I don't get it, but you guys, I don't know if it's the drinking all the time, going to the pubs. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe everybody in America needs to start going to the pub at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. There was a time when it felt like dance music was going to blow up in America. When CNC Music Factory had that Everybody Dance Now, Robin S, Show Me Love, it really felt like dance music was on its way to becoming big because those records were on radio. And then what ended up happening is hip hop became such a huge thing. Dance music just fell by the wayside, and there were no radio stations wanting to support that because hip hop was where the money was at. So we lost that. And then it wasn't again until people like Fatboy Slim, Chemical Brothers, started penetrating and actually getting on MTV, that punk, that I finally started saying, wow, maybe it's starting to happen now. But it never did. They called it electronica, and they piled it on with a whole bunch of other different music that basically they felt they didn't have a name for, and it just never gave dance a real face, if you will, in American culture. So although it was huge in the club scene because of the UK guys, now all of us US guys are really starting to make noise, but it really stayed in the US at club level. We never really got over that hump, and it hasn't been until as of right now, as of late, with people like David Guetta and Black Eyed Peas, and all of a sudden all these hip hop artists now want to work with dance producers. I've done a couple of records with P. Diddy. I mean, everybody wants to get on the bandwagon. And now all of a sudden I feel like the pendulum is really swinging because dance music is really becoming now something you're starting to see on MTV, and it's like only 20 years later. Definitely, me going to England, the first couple of times I went, I remember people always coming up to me and saying, "You want a pill, mate?" And it was like, huh, what? I never, in America, there was no such thing as ecstasy. Me going to clubs, I didn't see that. But going to the UK, it was readily available, and everybody was like, so I didn't know what it was. I remember trying it my first time. And it definitely was, it definitely made the music feel better. And it was something that was like, okay, this is something that is interesting. I definitely think that drugs have played a role in dance music. I don't think that every style of dance music you need to do drugs. I think that there are other styles that I don't understand how people listen to it unless they are on drugs. But I definitely think that drugs have played a role in dance music. I think that it has made people feel the music more. It does make people appreciate the bass more. And I just think that it is kind of something that goes hand in hand when you talk about dance music. I didn't start hearing about drugs in America probably 97, 98. And I think, again, it was with when the invasion of the DJ culture from the UK came in, all that other stuff came in with it. And that's when I started hearing people all of a sudden talking about, pills in America. And it wasn't, a big thing. Nowadays, even hip hop people are doing it. I mean, they're all doing it. It's everywhere. But I think that the reason why people do drugs, it's, and it's not just dance music. I think in general is at night. It's just why they drink alcohol. It's it takes the edge off, and if it helps, if it helps the experience of your clubbing. Let's face it, clubbing is the escape from your job, your school, your responsibilities. It's the one time, whether it's a one time a week or 2 times a week, that you go to release yourself. And if you want to have a little fun, you know what? Go for it. For me, Ibiza. I mean, Ibiza is now such a big part of my life. I own a home there. I've been doing a residency at Pasha on Wednesdays now for the last, I think 11 years it's gonna be now. So and I've only missed one Wednesday in those 11 years. So that tells you, from the beginning of June to the end of September, what a big role Ibiza plays in my life. I remember my first time hearing of Ibiza. I remember when I went to the UK in '92, it was the talk of everybody. You have to get out to Ibiza. You have to. I didn't know, it's like, okay, Ibiza. I just thought it was like another city in the UK, kind of thing, because that's how people talk about it. But I remember it wasn't until the following year, in 1993, that I got booked to do a party at Space. And it was gonna be I was supposed to be playing on a Sunday or Monday. I don't remember what the day it was, but I remember getting on a plane, and it was one of those economy flights from the UK, and it was full of DJs, girls, and everybody's drinking and walking around, and the stewardess is trying to keep order, and I'm sitting there going, what the hell is this? I mean, it was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. I remember people passing bottles of whiskey around. I mean, it was just like, where am I going, And I remember getting off the plane, actually being chucked out by the stewardess because we got into an argument as I was walking out the plane. And I just remember, you walk into Ibiza and you just feel this energy. As soon as you get off the plane, you feel this energy. To this date, I can't explain it. All I know is you feel this energy when you get on the island, and it was like, okay, I think I'm gonna like this place. And I remember people telling me, okay, you gotta go and check out all these clubs. I was there for one night. So they tell me, you're playing at Space. I'm like, what time do I start DJing? Yeah, you're playing tomorrow at 9 in the morning. I'm like, what? I mean, what do you mean? What am I doing tonight? I remember, that night I went to Amnesia. I went to Es Paradis. I went to Privilege. And then I'm like, okay, I need to get some sleep. That never happened. So I walk into Space. It's the daylight. There was no roof. And people are just going for it. That's when the DJ booth used to be behind the bar, and you didn't even face the crowd. You were actually facing a bunch of bottles. So, the crowd is behind you dancing. And I'm like, this is fucking wacky. But it was such a great vibe. Girls in bikinis, everybody just a smile on their face and just going for it. I had just never experienced such a place where so many like-minded individuals who are into one thing, which is dancing and enjoying life. And it's the one place you can go and DJ and touch everybody. You play in one club and you got people from the UK, people from France, people from Australia, so it is the world stage for dance music. And that's why, to me, it's one of the most important places to be in if you're a DJ. Never mind the fact that it's a beautiful island. There's some great beaches. I love Spanish food, love the paella, love the yerbas. It's a beautiful place to go. And, if you don't want to be clubbing, you don't have to. But it is, where would the world be, I think, without Ibiza? I mean, where would the world of dance be? I don't know if we would have been as unified as a world without it. When I started DJing, the thought of even being a DJ for the rest of my life was not in the cards. Again, it was just a hobby while I was in school. And then when I discovered England, yes, I wanted to become a DJ, but I never thought it would get to rock star status, which is where it is right now. I mean, I lead a very privileged life, and coming from a very poor background, I am telling you that I could never have imagined between my wildest dreams that I would own homes in Ibiza, in Miami, in New York, now looking at LA, Brazil, have a private plane in the summer waiting for me to travel around and do my gigs. The women, the models, I mean, it's unbelievable. And it's like, it's I thank my lucky stars every day, and I rarely get upset about anything. The only things that upset me sometimes is like when I really want something to happen, and like usually it's work related, and I can't make it happen. That brings upset, but it doesn't last very long because again, I lead a very, very privileged life. I'm able to take care of my mother and my family. I'm able to do so many things for so many people that. If I was to die tomorrow, I'd tell you I have lived past my wildest dreams. The gigs that I do because I love it. I work as hard as I do because I love to get on a plane and be in front of a crowd. I am addicted to the feeling of being in front of a crowd. And when you connect with a crowd, I tell you, there is no better feeling in the world.
¿Dónde está mi gente latina? Vamos a ver pues. Latinos! My name is Erick Morillo, and I want to welcome every single one of you to my birthday party tonight. It's the big 4-0. Lord have mercy. I'm getting old. New York, if you're ready to go till the sun comes up, make some noise up in here. New York City, are you ready?
For me, it's an art form to be able to walk into a room, read a room, see where it's at, gauge it, play your 2 records, see where they're at, and then take them on a ride. And if you do it right, and look, goosebumps. If you do it right, it's better than sex. It's better than anything. The fact that I get to do what I loved from the age I was 11, I still get to do it wherever I want in the world, whatever I feel like, and I get paid for it. Are you kidding me? It's amazing. I was the black sheep of the family. My sister is a principal now. She was in school, college. My cousins, everybody, I was the one going out to clubs. I was the one coming home at 5 in the morning, drunk sometimes. I mean, my mom was not happy with the lifestyle I had. This DJing stuff and playing discotheques, like she was not happy about that. And definitely it was something that she wanted me to get out of. So we'd always have a laugh about how I've gone from being the black sheep of the family and the one that everybody thought was gonna be, the fuck up of the family basically, to now becoming the provider and becoming a celebrity. And we laugh about it. And my mom is so proud. I mean, my mom is my biggest fan. My mom, you walk into her house and it's like a shrine to Erick Morillo. She goes to my parties. My mom, I have video of my mom at Space with Tommy Lee next to her and like this, just going, she gets so excited because you gotta understand, music comes from her. The reason why I was always into music, because Saturday afternoon cleaning was her listening to her records. My mom used to go dancing. She loved to dance. That was her thing. And I think that the passion for music came from her. My greatest achievement to this day, and something that I think everybody has it as a dream from when they're little kids, was buying my mother a house. That was always the sign to me of when I had made it. When I was able to buy my mother a house, that was always the thing. I was able to I was able to surprise her and buy her a home and tell her, you never have to work another day in your life. That to me is my biggest, she cried and she did. And she didn't work for about 2 months. And then after 2 months, she called me and said, listen, son, I love you to death. And thank you so much, but I'm going crazy. I've cleaned this house upside down and I have nothing else to do. I gotta go back and work. Don't be upset, please. And she has a job that and it's just more to get out of the house and what have you. But I think for me, is being able to take care of my family is my biggest achievement. Yes, I've done some incredible gigs that, are at the top of my list of achievements, or, after 9/11, playing the Space Terrace closing party. And I did that for about 10 years. I was the closing DJ for the Space Terrace closing party. And after 9/11, I think that, I was stuck in New York when the whole September 11th, and, there were no flights for like a week and a half. You couldn't get on a plane. Finally getting to Ibiza just in time to do the closing of Space, and playing New York, Frank Sinatra as my closing record. at the Space Terrace, and all of a sudden, all these American flags came out. And you know, Space Terrace is mostly full of Brits and Europeans, and everybody just pulled out these American flags and people crying, and I'll put the volume down, everybody screaming New York, New York, and again, goosebumps. It was such a feeling of unity and wowness, if you will. And to me, that will always be one of my top moments as a DJ. Some of my favorite DJs are people like Carl Cox. I love his energy. When he's, it's like, I'm the same way when I DJ. I love dancing around. I love sweating. I love, and I really respect him as an artist. I think what he does is amazing, and to continue to be at the top, longevity in this industry is very hard to attain. And, someone like himself is someone I really, look up to. Some of my heroes have been people like Louis Vega, David Morales, Todd Terry. In the current scene, the Swedish House Mafia, these are young, up-and-coming, kids that I see so much of myself in them, and the energy that they project. For me, I like DJs who project energy. I don't necessarily like the DJs that stand and looking at their records and don't look at the crowd. For me, personally, it's not my taste. I like the guys that are jumping around, looking at the crowd, making it a party. Because at the end of the day, I feel like that's what we're there to do, is create a party. In the UK, back in the 2000s, they said dance music's dying. That's it, it's dead. I think that as long as people want to go and escape, dance music ain't going anywhere. I think that the DJ culture, it may change because of technology. It may change but I think that the culture of going out and escaping and listening to music isn't going anywhere. And I think that, there will be many more big DJs to come. Like the models, the big names, the supermodels, those are the big names. I think there was an era for the guys who were here first. And they will always be the big names in this industry. There will always be the Carl Cox, there'll always be the Sasha Digweed, there'll always be the Dancing Neglia, there'll always be the Paul Oakenfolds, there'll always be the Tiestos, hopefully the Erick Morillos. There'll always be the big names, but there will be, younger guys that will come through and will be there. But I see this industry continuing to thrive, and I see the dance music business of selling music, the downloads now, really starting to pick up, and I think that you're gonna see the business really grow, the business side of things, which is one of the things that really suffered due to the introduction of the internet. But I think that that's coming out, and I just see it growing bigger.
Let's remix it.
I think the DMC, at least from where I stood, in the US and going to the UK, has played a big role. Whether it was from the magazine, the weekly magazine that everybody looked at the chart in the back to see what was the hot record and do I have that and why don't I have that, and calling the label and trying to get those records, and them letting reviews on the records and letting what were the up and coming trends, what were the upcoming DJs. I think also the DMC competitions that they held worldwide. I think it was a great thing, to exposing the art of DJing to a lot of people who maybe didn't know, and I'm talking about now in America, when they would have those competitions, it was a big draw. I remember going to a couple, and some of the stuff that you would see these DJs do, scratching and turning the thing around and scratching with the elbows and, behind the head and all that stuff. Yeah, I think a lot of people got really creative, and I think it definitely played a big role with me because doing tricks and doing things like that. Going to see these things is when you would actually see a bunch of people doing, getting creative with it, and it was a good thing for me because then it made me go home and practice even more and do a lot of stuff. So I definitely think it played a big role in my growing up as a DJ. I think turntablism is definitely an art form. I think a lot of stuff that these guys do and did, and the things that I saw were just ridiculous. And even to this day, a lot of stuff that the hip hop guys are doing, where they're just scratching and they're playing like 10 records in the matter of 1 minute, and they just put the needle on the record and they already know where it's going, and boom, 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 and it's like, how the fuck are you doing? And and they're making the records talk. was something I could never. I mean, I practiced. Trust me, I tried. So I think it's definitely an art form, and it's something that if you're good at it, you impress people. So yeah, it's definitely an art form, no doubt about that. Music touches people. Music, you can get emotion from people. You play the right track at the right moment, you can have everybody under your spell. And it really is, you can make people happy, you can make people sad, you can make people angry with some tracks, and you can really notice these things. So absolutely, I think that, again, being able to read a crowd and being able to know what music does to people is an art form in itself. And if you know what you're doing, you really can have them at the party.
So come on, give it up, get into your rhythm. No need for you to be stressed. So come on, give it up, get into your system.